The 911 Carrera and the 911 Turbo S. Fancy bookends to start today's program with, isn't it? Well, I can tell you, I am in hallowed company today. Thank you for joining us on a brand new episode of CNB. I'm Siddharth Vinayak Partnkar, and we have quite the lineup for you, as you've already seen. No, and I don't mean these cars. A lot of color here and a lot of horsepower, but this is eye candy for you today because I know that many of you really want me to get very quickly to the Ford Freestyle, a brand new model from Ford, one that holds a lot of promise. And the question on your minds, is it just a dolled up hatchback, one of the cross hatches? Well, Cyrus spent a lot of time with it to try and get you an answer to that question.
The cross hatchback segment in India is one that has seen quite a few entrants in the last few years. The Hyundai i20 Active, Toyota Etios Cross, Honda WRV, Fiat Ventura and the Cross Polo. If anything, even the Renault Kwid and the Maruti Suzuki Ignis are hatchbacks inspired by SUV styling. And now, Ford has thrown in its hat into the ring with the new Freestyle. And no, it isn't just a Figo with some plastic bits attached. The Freestyle, apart from its obvious crossover bits, gets styling changes to differentiate it from the Figo hatch and sedan too. So you now get a new gloss black honeycomb grille, a new front bumper with two distinct plastic bits on either side, and the silver painted skid plates. Then the crossover stuff like the plastic cladding around the side and the wheel arches, which house a new set of 15-inch split 4-spoke alloy wheels. At the rear, the same styling theme continues with the silver skid plate and the 4 vents. The Freestyle also gets some racing stripes along the side and functional roof rails that can take up to 50 kilos. Inside, an updated brownish red dashboard with a black lower half made up of better plastics instantly makes the Freestyle more premium than the Figo. Infotainment system has a 6-inch screen, smaller than some of the competition, but what it lacks in size, it makes up for in resolution and fluidity. Ford Sync 3 infotainment is without a doubt the best on any car under 10 lakh rupees. Apart from Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, it also gets some quirks like a digital compass, perfect when you're literally in the middle of, well, nowhere. A massive dry lake bed, a brand new hatchback, and a whole afternoon of playing around with. This is definitely going to be fun. Traction control off, obviously. Well, the Ford Freestyle isn't just a hopped up hatchback with some plastic claddings added onto it. It's actually a little bit more than that. It does get different suspension, and that gives you 190 mm of ground clearance, and 190 mm on any hatchback is actually really respectable, especially when you consider the fact that there are a lot of broken tarmac roads in the country, and well, mucking about on the Sambar Lake like this is actually quite a lot of fun, and you don't have to be worried about hitting something on the bottom. Putting things into perspective, the EcoSport is 200 mm of ground clearance, so this is just 10 mm less than its bigger brother. As we mentioned earlier, the Freestyle gets traction control, a first for any hatchback in this category. It also gets electronic stability control or ESC, active rollover protection or ARP, hill assist, and 2 airbags as standard on all variants, with the top spec titanium getting 6 airbags. So now that we've seen how the Freestyle handles all the rough stuff, it's time to hit tarmac and see how that is handled. The big new change though is actually under the bonnet. Now there is a brand new engine on offer now, a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder non-turbocharged naturally aspirated petrol engine. Yes, Ford has stuck to naturally aspirated engines in this era of turbocharged motors. Now this is the same family, the Dragon family of engines that also debuted on the EcoSport a few months ago. This of course is a smaller engine, makes 95 horsepower, 120 Newton meters of torque, and it gets mated to a brand new 5-speed gearbox. Overall, it might not be as free revving as some other competitor engines are, but it certainly definitely feels a lot more powerful, feels a lot more grunty, and definitely wants to get going, especially in that mid-range. You don't really have to shift down either, put the power down. It also gets a new 5-speed manual gearbox, which, as all gearboxes that Ford makes, like almost all gearboxes that Ford makes, is good to respond to all your touches, shifts well, very nice in terms of shift action on the stick, and just sort of performs really well with this engine package. It is actually a great combination. Strangely though, even though automatics are getting more and more popular with Indian buyers, just like the Honda WRV, Ford will not be offering one on the Freestyle anytime soon. There is, however, a diesel engine on offer on this small crossover, the same 1.5 litre unit that also does duty in the EcoSport. That engine makes 99 bhp of peak power, 215 Newton meters of peak torque, and has a fuel efficiency rating of 24.4 kilometers per litre. In India, the Ford Freestyle will need to contend primarily with one real rival, the Maruti Suzuki Ignis, and that is because the Etios Cross, the Cross Polo and the Aventura are largely irrelevant, and the WRV sits a segment higher. And while Maruti would have had a clean sweep over most cars in the past, with the Freestyle, Ford finally has a competitor that is cool and funky enough and that has enough tech to really take it on. The Freestyle will be launched later this month and should be priced around the 6 lakh to 7 lakh 50,000 rupee range. And yes, Ford should consider a well-priced automatic to really take the competition to the market leader.
Absolutely gorgeous color, and the last time you saw this car with me was during our jury meet, and some of you will remember, it's also the winner of our Sports Car of the Year for 2018. That is the 718 Boxster from Porsche. Speaking of performance and exhilaration on a track, that's exactly what TVS is going for with its new bike. Now, the RR310 is getting so much attention because, of course, it is the culmination of what's been happening at TVS for the last few years. And we've certainly talked about it for a while now, but we really have not brought you that comprehensive review. Today, you get to see the new Apache.
The TVS Apache RR310 proved to be a fun motorcycle on the racetrack, as we found out during our ride at the Madras Motorsport Circuit. But living with the RR310 on a daily basis is a completely different ballgame. And that's what we are trying to find out, how practical the bike is and how it actually fares on an everyday basis.
The TVS Apache RR310 left us wanting for more when we last rode it at the Chennai racetrack. While Preetham had a ball of a time with the motorcycle, I was kind of feeling left out. So this time around, I got the keys to the bike and I would really like to see how the bike performs in real-world situations.
But first, the numbers. The 312cc liquid-cooled engine puts out 35.5 bhp and 27.3 Newton meters of torque, and it is quite the performer. Drop a gear, twist the throttle, and you will leave more or less every motorist on the road behind. All 33.5 horses break into a full gallop at 9700 revs, and a huge chunk of it comes between 5000 and 8000 RPM. There is this delicious pull from the single-cylinder engine, and the RR310 will entertain you with its quick acceleration every time you explore those revs through those gears. The riding position is committed, and it would take time getting used to, especially for riders looking to put in a few hundred kilometers on the highway. The single-cylinder engine does heat up, but the fins on the side of the fairing do a great job of deflecting the heat away from the rider's legs, which is a boost in a hot and traffic-heavy country such as ours. The ride quality is on the stiffer side though, but not as stiff to make the riding experience jarring and uncomfortable. Overall, the Apache RR310 proved to be a near perfect all-rounder and is quite at home doing the daily commute. So filtering through traffic or even taking the fast corner, the RR310 does it all with nonchalant ease. The grip from the Michelin Pilot Street tires is superb and gives you immense confidence around the corner or on the hard braking. That said, the feel of the brakes could have been slightly better, but it is not much of a deal breaker really. But there is one downside to all that hair-raising performance and impeccable road manners: vibrations. There's quite a bit of it between 4000 and 8000 RPM, and then there's the annoying buzz on the handlebars, foot pegs and the fuel tank, which kind of robs you of the RR310's near-perfect performance.
Wow, that was a great ride. The RR310 looks like $1 million, goes like sting. It's a good tool to sharpen your riding skills and is also game for occasional track days. The only negative that we could think of are the vibrations. They are really a dampening experience. If that could be taken care of, this is one fine motorcycle that you could buy.
But one look at the bike and all those negatives are forgotten. It looks stunning, especially in this bright shade of red that our test bike has. Twin LED projector headlamps and a sculpted full fairing accentuate further the super sport styling of the RR310. It is also loaded with features, and the cherry on the cake is the all-digital vertical instrumentation console, which displays a long list of information such as speed, revs, distance to empty, lap timers, a 0 to 60 km/h time, 2 trip meters and so on. And then there's the dual channel ABS offered as standard fitment, so full marks there. The TVS Apache RR310 has raised the bar for design, fit and finish and features for an entry-level made in India sport bike, and we can say with conviction that it has set a new benchmark in terms of design and quality. Priced at 2,23,000 rupees ex-showroom, it is a fantastic performer and will help make you a better rider if you want to explore the racetrack every now and then. Now, if only the engine was a little less vibey, it would have been just the perfect bike.
Now, if you think that's a nice color, well, I can tell you this bright yellow is certainly getting a lot of my attention as well. Let me spend some time staring at these cars. You take a short break and join me right after that. Welcome back to CNB. Now, mind-bogglingly fast and absolutely crazy powerful, and so certainly a very worthy flagship for the Porsche range, the Turbo S. Well, I can just tell you that it's taking all my willpower not to jump in and start driving right away. And completely at the other end of that spectrum are a lot of the new electric mobility solutions, and we've been doing this whole special series from the United States on freewheeling, where we've been bringing you a look at what's happening right now. But when you talk about what's happening right now, it's also nice to reflect and take a look at what's happened in the past. So Cyrus also went down to the Henry Ford Museum in Detroit, well, Dearborn, Michigan, and took a look at what was happening several years ago with electric mobility.
In the last few weeks, we have brought you an exclusive look at two electric vehicles that are pushing the boundaries of current and future technology. Both the Tesla Model 3 and the Byton SUV are certainly super cool, and most importantly, both offer zero emissions. But clean electric or even hybrid cars aren't a new concept. Now, while it's great to have a look at all that current technology and the future tech that will propel all our needs for the coming future and will have a solution for all our mobility issues, it's also great to step back a little bit and take a look at all the current technology that used to exist maybe a decade or even a century ago. Now, electric cars, for example, have been around for much longer than we care to imagine, and so have hybrids. In fact, they've been around for over a century. So that's exactly why we're here. We're at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan, and we're going to take a look at all that technology which was there in the past and is now making its big comeback.
looking at an 1896 Riker electric prototype vehicle. This was built by Andrew Riker, an early automotive engineer. Very basic, just a three-wheel vehicle with the power going directly to that rear wheel. The electric motor, in fact, is mounted on the hub of that rear wheel, about 1 horsepower, so not very fast. But
it is a hub motor, which is sort of making a comeback now, isn't it?
They are using that design again, yeah, in some places, absolutely. And this is a technology, a lot of people think hybrid cars are recent. In fact, they've been around for more than 100 years. This is a 1916 Woods dual power, and it works the same as a hybrid car does today. You'd use the electric motor to get up to speed, and at about 15-20 miles an hour, the gasoline engine takes over. The difference is here, the driver would have to manually switch between the electric and gasoline engines, whereas today it's all done automatically.
Did this also have a standard gasoline option?
Yes, well, this car would have been built only in the hybrid configuration, so you'd have to get the 2 motors. But
did Woods also make a standard?
Woods did make a standard before they went into the hybrid business, yes.
And then, of course, they went out of business.
Very shortly after this, yes.
Like a lot of other manufacturers of that era, we are seeing a resurgence of these small manufacturers today as well in the electric age. It is very similar in terms of, if you draw a parallel between the early days of motoring and today, we have this whole resurgence of these small automakers. And then a lot of them have gone out of business.
This is true, yes, yeah.
Do you think there's a reason for because most of these people could not keep up with production and demand and evolve as quickly as the big guys did? Do you see a similar thing happening today as well?
I do. You know, Tesla's a good example. They're building the Model 3 and they can't keep up with the demand. They cannot build them fast enough. That's a problem that's hampered automakers almost from the beginning. So yes, absolutely.
Next up is this thing. While we might find it cute today, the commuter car was made only because there was a need of having an electric car due to the fuel crisis of the 1970s. Big gas guzzling V8s were out of fashion now, and this is also when Japanese car makers with their small fuel efficient 4-cylinders made their mark. Coming back to the commuter car though, this $5,000 car packed lead acid batteries and offered a 40-mile range, which at the time made it one of the best electric cars in the world. Incidentally, it also makes just 5 horsepower. From something that looks like it was made in a shed to what is known as the best electric car of the 20th century, the EV1 Coupe is a landmark car for electric mobility. The first and only car to get a GM or General Motors badge instead of being badged a Chevrolet or a Pontiac or a Cadillac, etc., the GM EV1 is the first purpose-built electric car of the modern era. The EV1 was made from 1996 to 1999 when GM made 1,117 units of the electric car. It was only available via a lease, and despite keen interest and a loyal following, in 2003 GM recalled it and crushed almost all but 60 cars which were sent to museums and institutes. The first Gen EV1 had a range of about 100 kilometers, with the upgraded Gen 2 getting a range of about 160. Just imagine what would have happened if an automaker as big as General Motors continued with its electric car development instead of almost abandoning it like it did in the early 2000s.
There's another interesting car here which is gas turbine. Now that's a technology that never actually caught on.
Yes.
Quite obviously, because it is at the end of the day a jet engine. Well, you can call it that, but it is something similar.
You're right.
Do you think we're still looking at, there are still unexplored avenues of transportation that haven't come across?
Well, I would say we can never count anything out. You know, there are experiments being made with all kinds of power sources. I think hydrogen fuel cells are being experimented with as well, in addition to electric hybrid technologies. There have even been people talking about bringing steam back online at some point, so don't count anything out.
The 1963 Chrysler gas turbine sedan though is extremely cool. I mean, come on, which 12-year-old kid doesn't want a jet engine in their car? Makes you feel like Batman. So there you have it, electric, hybrid and alternative powertrains that have been developed and used, and after decades of being delegated as a second-rate power plant, they are finally gaining popularity by being clean, usable and still ridiculous levels of fun.
Now the Panamera was one of the top 3 in the world luxury car award space, and along with it, its stablemate, the new generation of the Cayenne, also very much there. That car arrives in India a little bit later this year. On that note, we're going to say goodbye here on CNB. I hope you enjoyed a quick glimpse at all these cars, and certainly the new bike and the new car we had for you at the start of the show. And don't worry, I'm not just going to tease you with this. Something special happening with these cars on next week's show. Please wear your seatbelts, please wear your helmets. Join us for that.